I was recently on the Facebook page for the British Humanist Association, and I was really excited to see a quote that they had there. They produced a beautiful graphic with a quote from the Universal Declaration of Human Rights that talks in glowing terms about the inherent dignity of every member of the human family and the basis that thus gives us for human rights and justice. And I read it and I thought, fantastic, I completely agree. But on the other hand, I'm puzzled. What's it doing on the Facebook page for a well-known atheist organisation? Why do I say that? Well, the problem is, talking about human dignity, especially inherent dignity of human beings, is basically impossible if you're an atheist. I'm sorry to be that direct. It's impossible for this reason. You see, human rights is based on human dignity and human value. And where does that come from on atheism? You see, if you don't believe in God, if you believe that we are just a random collocation of atoms, to quote the famous atheist philosopher Bertrand Russell, or just the result of a long chain of time plus chance plus natural selection, how is it that we have some kind of special dignity that other animals don't, and on that dignity you can build human rights? You see, for all of its importance, and I think human rights is fantastically important, the question of how we find a basis for human rights is very, very difficult if you don't believe in God. You could think about it this way. Let's imagine we could draw a circle, and in that circle is the DNA of every living thing on planet Earth. Lettuces and aardvarks and elephants and antelopes and estate agents, and everything is in there. And if you believe in human rights and you're an atheist, what you're doing is you're coming along and you're drawing a smaller circle inside the big circle and saying if you live in that small circle, if you have human DNA, you have rights and dignity that the rest of the animal kingdom doesn't. But now there's a problem. Along comes the racist white supremacist, and he or she takes your pen and draws a smaller circle inside your already small circle and goes, no, it's only if you're white and middle class and English speaking and so on and so forth that you have these rights. The rest of the human family don't. What do you do? Because we want to write them off as a racist and a genocidal maniac. But on the other hand, you're hoping that you might qualify for a Nobel Human Rights Award. How does that work? Because you've both drawn circles. He's merely drawn his circle smaller than yours, but both are arbitrary circles. And you run into this crashing problem if you're an atheist. How do you talk meaningfully about rights and justice and these kind of things when you have no basis for that at all? Unless we can ascribe an actual value, an actual dignity to human beings, then we can't get any further. So where might human dignity and value be grounded? It's interesting to think about value for a moment. Economists will tell you that value is not inherent, but is conferred by what somebody is prepared to pay. So, for example, my iPhone costs several £100s, but that value isn't inherent to it. That's merely what the market will bear. I was prepared to pay several £100s for my iPhone because the ability to play Candy Crush Saga in strange places is to me a productivity tool.
Divine.
But if I was to take my iPhone to a desert island with no Wi-Fi, no power, no cell phone signal, what would somebody pay me for it? The answer is probably nothing, because it would have no use. It might be a nice chopping board for shellfish, but nothing else. It would have no value. Value is conferred by what somebody is prepared to pay. Now, think about human value. If we talk about human dignity and human value, that implies that somebody must have been prepared to pay something for us, to value us. On atheism, there is nobody. But at the heart of the Christian faith stands the story of a God, the creator of everything, the creator of you and I and everything around us, who didn't just leave us as orphans, but who stepped into history in the person of Jesus Christ, who went to the cross and paid with his lifeblood for me and for you to deal with the brokenness and the rebellion and the alienation and the wickedness, what the Bible calls sin, that lies in the heart of each one of us, that causes us to behave in such ways to one another that we need to think about human rights in the first place. And Jesus paid the highest possible price, his life, for each one of us. I know of no greater basis for value and for dignity than what Jesus did in the cross. It gives us a basis for human dignity, a basis for human value, a basis for human rights, and a basis for forgiveness and reconciliation with the God who is Lord of all and also the Father of all. And of course, if human beings are one family, that raises the question, who is the Father and the source of all of that? Christian faith answers that for us in a way that atheism can't even begin to touch. If you're watching this and you believe in human rights and dignity, come on home to the Christian faith. That is the only source for all of them.